Hey friends, welcome back to Rita Talks. I'm Rita, and on this YouTube channel, I just share some of the thoughts, ideas that I've been thinking about, some of the things that have been going on in my life. And in today's video, I want to talk about some insights that I got from the Diary of a CEO podcast episode with Josh Kaufman, who's basically the author of the Personal MBA. I think he wrote another book called The First 20 Hours. And basically today I finished listening to this podcast episode and I started re-listening to it again. It was really, really good. And I actually encountered some new ideas that I thought were quite interesting that I want to share in this video. And also like some things that I somehow thought about while I was listening to that episode, and it just got my creativity and my thinking going. So let's start with the first idea that I encountered in this episode, which is Gall's law, which is that any complex system evolved from a simpler system that worked. So basically, the corollary to that, the business corollary to that is if you want to create a system that works, the easiest, best thing to do is to start with a simpler system and build it up from there. And the reason for that is that every additional bit of complexity needs to serve some sort of purpose to justify its cost, either a direct cost or time or attention, which basically any of these costs count as opportunity costs that you could have been spending all of these things, like either money or your time or your attention, on something else. And actually this is the first time that I encountered this naming of this law, Gall's law, and it's a law that allows me to make peace with doing things in a very, very simple way, and actually make peace with this kind of whole YouTube channel that basically I'm just doing something very simple, which is filming almost every day, and sharing some of the things that I encounter, some of the ideas I find interesting, some of the things that I'm going through in my life, and basically trying not to add complexity prematurely. So basically how I started, if you can go back to the first few videos on this channel, or first 100 and I don't know how much, it's just me talking with almost no editing whatsoever. The only thing that's there is basically like this kind of hiss removal from this specific camera because it has a hiss. So I just remove the hiss and that's it. And I post a video. And then I think it was something around episode 160 or something like this, I started adding some subtitles, which you probably can see right now, of what I'm saying. And the only reason I added that is that there was this new capability that got unlocked that I found out about. That's basically AI subtitle generation. And I just started using that, and I'm okay, or at least, yeah, the current version of me, not the one that you're, not the one that currently exists while you're watching this video. So the current version of me while I'm filming this video is okay with having subtitles not being entirely accurate, but it's still better than not having any subtitles. And basically starting from a very simple thing and slowly getting better. And basically this extra bit of complexity that I've added by adding these subtitles while I'm editing basically serves a very specific purpose of making it easier for you to understand what I'm saying despite my accent maybe, or just overall it's really helpful to listen to something and also like see like the transcript of it. It just makes it much easier to retain. And the only reason I added that is that I was noticing that like from all of the videos that I was watching, the videos that I got the most engaged in had subtitles. And so I just thought, okay, if there's a way for me to do these automatic subtitles, it would be amazing. And thankfully, I found out about the subtitles feature in CapCut, so I got a CapCut subscription just for this. And so, yeah, I've been editing all of my videos this way. And basically, now I have added a tiny bit of complexity to my kind of processes. But basically, I'm trying to be as slow as possible in adding complexity. Just because of the sheer volume of videos, I don't want to get overwhelmed. And so while I figure out what's a better system on how to edit these videos, I will have the simple way of doing it, right? So this is something that is actually reassuring, this Gall's law, that any complex system has evolved from a simpler system that worked. So the simpler system is like the simplest way, is just not like just filming, and like this is the core input. And then anything that happens after that is is extra. And because I don't have any editing skills, I am an engineer by training, and yeah, don't have that much time to start learning to edit. And I don't think I can I can't really afford right now to get an editor, especially that like I'm not making any money from this. I'm just doing it for I don't know why I'm doing it. Multiple reasons, but I'm just doing it, right? I don't want to make it so hard for me to do that I stop doing it. So simple and repeat it for a very, very long period of time, and that's good enough. And eventually, because it's part of human nature to want to get better, these kind of videos will get better, first of all, because the way that I express myself is improving. I'm hopefully being more clear in the way that I speak, hopefully being more engaging in the way that I try to convey my ideas. Hopefully I get faster to the point than I used to. And these are things that I'm getting better at just from the sheer number of repetitions. And basically, I'm always on the lookout for an extra simple process step that I can easily scale to all of these videos that I'm making. And so basically, every additional bit of complexity, basically, as he said, has to serve a specific purpose. And that's I'm kind of preventing myself from making things too complicated, because that would actually decrease the likelihood that I would keep going with this over let's say a 10-year time horizon. So that was very cool to learn the name of this law and this idea that basically to get to any complex system you have to start first with the very core principles and only add stuff that's absolutely necessary, and then you end up with a system that only has the essential parts, and you're not overcomplicating things for no reason without having justified the reason for that extra process step. And so on the same idea, basically he went on to say, so Josh Kaufman went on to say that actually the more sophisticated thing to do, rather than just complexifying for the sake of complexifying, with the assumption that if something is more complex, it means that it's better, because that's not true. And basically, it might be better, but the trade-off might not be worth it, right? So basically, he goes on to say that the most sophisticated thing to do is to start simple and keep it simple on purpose, and then make every little bit of complexity earn its way. Because complexity does not equate with value. So just keep it simple from the beginning. And that's exactly what I'm doing with these Rita Talks videos. Keeping it simple, starting simple and keeping it simple on purpose, and making every little bit of complexity earn its way. So it was very cool to come across this, and it's kind of like is reassuring me, because I doubt, like there are moments where I really doubt myself and like doubt everything that I'm doing, because I have not been doing it for long enough to know for sure that it's gonna work out. And now I'm in this big phase of I've been doing it for long enough that basically like my ego can start to get in the way. Like I can start to think, oh, maybe I should stop because it's not working or whatever. But it's not long enough for it to actually work. And so it's like kind of the hard part where you've been putting in a lot of work and it's not working yet. And you kind of want to give up. But I know just from a statistical perspective, over the long term, over a long enough time horizon, things will work out. And so this is just a kind of reaffirmation of this kind of instinct that I have, and intuition that I have, to just continue doing what I'm doing. So I just thought that was very cool. And yeah, actually this part, like thinking about simplification and complexity, it got me thinking about this thing that I noticed, like the kind of difference between beginners and experts and how they view complexity. So basically, I noticed this. When you're a beginner, you see some stuff and you think, surely it can't be as simple as that. And then you let it go. You don't look further into it. You just assume that, come on, I can't possibly, it can't possibly be that easy. And then basically, through the process of becoming an expert and learning more, it actually kind of makes you realize that even with learning more, like the most important stuff is the simple stuff. And so then you realize that it is actually that simple. So you get all the information, like you get a lot of information to kind of realize that it is that simple in a lot of cases, right? And so basically the difference between beginners and experts is that beginners don't trust their judgment, which is kind of reasonable because they're still beginners, and they don't trust basic reasoning, whereas experts actually know that sometimes simple is good and simple is right, and that's all there is to it. And they don't doubt themselves because they have already gathered enough information to be able to come to that conclusion. And so that's why it's like somewhat easier to convince experts than it is to convince beginners of something that you can obviously see but that no one else sees, because the beginners, they don't have the kind of knowledge to be able to tell that, oh my god, this is actually true, it's actually that simple. But the experts do, and so it's easier to convince experts of like a simplification, like some sort of thing that you can see that, I don't know, maybe is not widely known or has not been discovered before. So yeah, and actually that kind of makes sense, right? Because you actually have to earn the right to say that, like you have to earn that ability to see simplicity and trust your kind of judgment that it is simple when it is simple indeed. And the only way to do that is to learn more, to realize that for that specific thing, it is actually simple. So yeah, I don't know if that made any sense, but I hope it did. And so that also got me thinking that, like, I was actually thinking back on like some of the, on the Diary of a CEO podcast, Stephen Bartlett has hired an editor specifically to edit the first, I think, minute of the podcast, which is basically the teaser trailer of the podcast. And basically, he edits it in a way that it like sparks as much curiosity as possible to keep people listening or to get people to listen, right? And while I was listening to this podcast episode, because I picked up on it, I picked back up on it fairly towards the end from the last time that I was listening to it, I wanted towards the end to have like some sort of recap and some sort of loop closing from all of the questions that from all of the questions that were asked, or like from all of the curiosity that was sparked at the beginning of the episode, because I found myself like while re-listening to the same podcast episode, listening to that specific teaser part, and I'm like, what was the actual answer for this? I don't remember, and I actually listened to the podcast right before. So I just thought it would be really cool if they do something similar, like the teaser, but basically with all of the right answers to whatever they teased towards the end of the episode, and kind of give you like a highlight summary of the most important things that were said in that podcast episode, because that will allow us, the audience, to digest that information better and be like, oh, these are the questions that this is the kind of stuff that that the teaser got me curious about, and you don't have any closing loop about those questions. I mean, you do while you're listening to the podcast episode. You kind of understand like some of the, like, you kind of encounter those things, but they're not in a concise way. So it would be really cool to have something similar to the teaser, but towards the end to kind of recap, like to kind of close the loop, and then it's really satisfying, and it actually makes you more likely to remember those kind of stuff, because you just kind of close the loop. You had like curiosity that was sparked, and then close the loop in a very short, like, kind of summary kind of thing. I think you guys got the point. So I'm just gonna stop repeating the same thing. And there were a lot of other insights Like this insight, I think I talked about it before while I was listening to this podcast episode that he's referring to from this insight, which is basically that like this is something that Stephen was talking about, remembering something that another guest that he had on the podcast talked about, and basically this idea that you need to piss off the 80% to get to the 20%. And then Josh Kaufman says that actually the people that you need to focus on are the people who care more than everyone else. And basically I just combined it into you need to piss off the 80% to get to the 20% who care more than everyone else. And basically this idea that you need to piss off the 80% to get to the 20% it comes from Jade Warren, the founder of Dermalogica, who also was on the Diary of a CEO podcast. So you need to piss off the 80% to get to the 20% who care more than everyone else. And yeah, some other insights which I could talk about in tomorrow's episode. But yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to talk about for today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You can click here to watch my previous video on this channel, so I already prefer this one, or you can click here to watch my latest video on the channel overall. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, night, whichever time of day it is where you are right now. Bye for now, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye.